so good to see you. How are you?
So excited. It's nice to like actually meet you.
It's so nice to meet you as well. You know, I'm always here to talk Sarah J. Maas theories, and especially ones that are, you know, delulu and over the top, and I am here for it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm using my new mic that Megan influenced me to buy off of TikTok Shop.
Yeah, I can. I'm not using mine, but I grabbed it just in case. You sound really good.
Same.
Okay.
I'm just going
I just
off my
flipped
phone.
it on my shirt. I was like, might as well, you know.
Yeah.
I was way too nervous to like mess with it. I was like, no, I'm just gonna keep it like this. Hopefully the iPhone will have good audio.
Well, when we did our interview, when was that? A while ago, I was in my office and I have nothing in there, so it was like super echoey. So when I watched it back, I was like, ooh, yikes. And that's when I bought the microphones.
We had one of our very first podcast episodes on Raven Kennedy's Plated Prisoner series, and my audio was so bad. It was like ringing in people's ears, and we'd had no idea, and we'd recorded the whole thing, and then we're like, oh well.
But it was like one of our best episodes ever. It was so annoying.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all right. We've learned. We've become professional since then, so we've come a long way.
We have microphones.
Oh my God.
So we should, before we start talking, thank you to everyone who's joined. We should, if you're on and us, everyone share this with anyone and everyone. Just click the share button, send it to all your friends, send them a message that says, come join our live, and then we will dive in. But let's make sure people know that we're live on Megan's account, because I think people were like, whose account are you in?
Yeah.
So.
And then I had to like delete the original event and do a new one because it was just said this quarter, like, welcome to my live. And I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing.
Exactly. It needs to specify Sarah J. Maas. It needs to specify. I mean, okay, how excited are you guys since getting the news last week from Sarah J. Maas about ACOTAR 6?
I'm so excited. I
couldn't believe it.
I know. I feel like, I don't know. It's so crazy to me that like in 2023, she said in an interview that she was already writing that book. So I'm just like, what has been happening in the 2 years since she said she started writing it? Like, I don't know. I'm like suspicious that that's all.
Well, we did get Crescent City, right? Or wait,
yeah, but Crescent City was already, by that point, Crescent City would have been locked down. I mean, she said this at like the end of 2023. Crescent City came out at the beginning of 2024. Like, Crescent City's been locked down, you know, for 6 months by that point for a traditional publisher like Bloomsbury. So I just was like, what has she been doing?
I was so depressed because I was so sure we're going to get an update in May. I thought 10-year anniversary, 100%. She saved it for that moment. She's going to release it, you know, in May. And then we got nothing at all, like nothing. And, you know, the 10-year anniversary came and went with a very disappointing share from Bloomsbury. And I just went, oh, okay. And then I honestly had given up. And then I had this day, I was actually in a podcast with the marvelous Mrs. Megan, and we were halfway through when we realized that the information had dropped, and I was just completely overwhelmed.
I know. Oh my God. I was like listening to your 10-year anniversary podcast, and I was literally like screaming in my car. I was like, they're beefing, like right before you guys said it. And I was like, there are a few times I've listened and then I've texted Allie something and then you guys literally say it right after. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to like text her anything until I finish the episode, because then you literally said what I was thinking.
Perfect. Yep, that's what we try and do.
Yeah.
So before I go any further, is there anything else I can do to help encourage people to know to join? Like because I've got my L plates on with TikTok.
Like, down on the little 3 dots in the bottom, if you click that, you can do share, and you can just share it to like people via direct message.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. That's why I've been like staring at the screen. Like,
I know. It's like we're trying to be entertaining, but at the same time, I like, let's make sure everyone knows about this.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Eve. Thanks for joining. I'm like dubbing myself like the comment watcher, because I'm like really good at that. So I'm gonna just like be the person who's watching the comments and questions.
I saw Megan just said, I hope she's spent time analyzing her text like the rest of us. Probably not as much as we have, but you know, what else do we have to do?
I'm feeling like the delay, personally, I'm feeling like it's like confirming for me that like she's really expanding the multiverse and the Massverse, because she like felt like she had to really take time to figure out where it was all going before she could publish the next book. Like,
Absolutely.
That's what I'm feeling.
And a lot of us know, a lot of us weren't super happy with Crescent City 3 and how that worked out. So we're kind of happy for her to spend that extra time to really master ACOTAR. I think what's actually happened is because she said in December that the next book is really long. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's had chats with Bloomsbury and they've said, this is too much, you need to divide this. Or they've either said, reduce it. And she's possibly said, no, I will just make it 2 books. She said, I'm refused to remove what I've created. I'm just going to make it 2 books. And hence she's taken that extra time to turn one big book into 2. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's why she's specified ACOTAR 6, because as you said, Ali, there is meant to be an ACOTAR 5 as they're written down on.
Okay, this is, okay. So I made that video where I was like, guys, like the next book is ACOTAR 5, which for a very long time was the case. And then I, of course, didn't actually check Goodreads. And Goodreads has been updated. And ACOSF on Goodreads is ACOTAR 5. But I feel like that's very recent, because up until even just like a couple of months ago, it was listed as ACOTAR 4. And I do know that on Libby, it is still listed as 4. So I don't know. Either way, I think... I think you're on something, Nicole. I think she's just really needed to take her time, because the next book is going to be the Massverse. There's a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of like threads to weave in, and it's been taking her time to do that.
Yeah. I just want 2 books. Like, I want just constant delivery of, I don't want to get this book. I'm going to read it in like 24 hours and then I'll have another 2.5 years to wait before the next one. So I'm like, she can make 2 books. That'd be amazing. That'd be so great.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping there's like a diabolical twist. I don't know if you guys have seen my recent videos.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for, that Reesand comes out as the big bad, because I think we need a shot.
Who comes out as a big bad?
Reesand.
It's interesting, right? It's there. This is super controversial, Reesand being a villain, but it's interesting, isn't it? I feel like ever since Silver Flame, we haven't seen this nice side to Reese. Like, he's been, seeing it from Nesta's perspective, he's very hot-headed. We saw him from such a nice perspective the first couple of books, but now it's changed. But maybe Megan, share about what you spoke about with that.
So I don't think he has been nice the whole time. I think the first 3 books we purposefully got in Feyre's point of view, because he's gaslighting her. In turn, he's gaslighting us, the reader, because we are Feyre.
I'm like, my mind's getting blown right now. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, imagine 3 whole books we've just had we've just been gaslit. That's crazy.
Why else would she all of a sudden switch to third person? Because like you just said, and a lot of people will say like, oh, well, we're starting to see him in a negative light because we're in Nesta's point of view, but we're not. We're in third person point of view. So technically we're on the outside.
It's theoretically a little bit more neutral, because it's not actually like the only first person writing is Feyre's. Everything else is third person. So, I mean, I
love Reesand. Reesand's like your favorite in me, Ali.
But I think that's another thing. I was just watching Antoinette's video. I'll have to send it to you later, where she was like talking about how the antagonist doesn't necessarily mean they're the hero. They can be the main character of the book, and you could still fall in love with them, but they could be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Or ultimately, it's complicated.
That's why you like them.
Yeah, they're morally grey, which means they have different motivations and incentives. But we certainly know that Reesand's dad wasn't good, and that even though he was mates with his mum, he was not a good guy. And I think what was really interesting was seeing, he even put Cassian in a really difficult situation where he had to choose between following his, his leader or siding with his mate. And many times I thought that didn't seem very fair for Cassian, that he was having to make that choice, that sacrifice, and he put him in very difficult situations.
Yeah. I have more. I feel like once I started down this rabbit hole, that theory continued on. So even with Cassian, I have theories around that with the mating bonds. I think it's all a lie.
Well, I think we should just get into it. I think you should just do it. Like, I know. So we had a plan, we had an outline. Classic us. We're not going to follow it. I think that's okay. I think we just talk what we want to talk. So for those of you who are just joining, we're talking all things Sjm theories. You need to have like read the entire mass first, or you're going to get spoiled. Don't come at us if we spoil something. That's on you. So let's get into it. Rhys is evil. Rhys is the bad guy. Let's talk about this theory, okay? And let me just preface this by saying, like, I don't know that you're ever going to convince me that it's true, because like my heart is just so Reesand, but that doesn't mean that I can't like have a fun time intellectually engaging in the theory, you know? And I feel like sometimes on book talk, we have like lost that. We like lose the fun of just being like, let's just talk for a minute and like set everything we believe aside.
It's kind of brainstorming. We're brainstorming these ideas and going, what are the possibilities with these characters? And the reality for Reesand is, since Silver Flame, we haven't seen a great side to him. We saw he seemed so amazing those first couple of books, but since Nestor's come along, now he has had reasons for why he's done that. Obviously, he's super protective because he's a dad, and look, probably my one exception would be that he seemed like he was, apart from Nestor, he seemed pretty good with like Bryce's parents when they were there. Like he has a rational, calm side as well, but then he also has this evil side. But I think like everything with Sarah, people can be pretty grey. They can sit somewhere in the, are they making good decisions or are they making bad decisions? And that tends to be, determining whether they are a good or evil character.
Yeah.
No,
So
I mean,
lay it all out for us, Megan. Lay it all out for us. Why is Rhys evil?
Okay, so here's the thing. I love Reesand, and I think it would make me love the story more to have this like insanely huge twist. And we know that SJM hides things right under our noses. Like Aelin, are you kidding? Selena Sargon, Maeve being Vulg, like it was all right there. So I compared this in another video to being in a toxic relationship. Stay with me. I did not see the bad things that Rhys was doing until I was like a year out from reading it. And it feels like when you're in a toxic relationship and then you get out of it, and like the first year you're like, oh, remembering all of the good things and like all of the sweet things, and then finally all of a sudden it smacks you in the face and you're like, oh my God, no, he did like fucked up shit to me. Like what? And you start seeing all of the really bad things. And then the cracks started like opening as I was in the middle of Throne of Glass, and I'm like starting to put the parallels together. And so then I obviously went to TikTok and I was like, okay, maybe I'm crazy. I'm the only one thinking this. Nope. There is like a huge rabbit hole of like people a lot smarter than me. But so a lot of people like to compare, like they like to condemn Tamlin for what he did, right? And like trapping her in the house.
Yep.
But Tamlin never did anything out of harm for her. He was trying to protect her and his court. Like he had a duty to protect his court. And now he has this 19-year-old girl who's literally uneducated, who just become Fae, who has no idea how to use her powers. He has no time to train her, and she says she wants to be trained. He's like, I don't have time. We're on the brink of war. Like, you can stay wherever you want within the Spring Court. You just have to have a guard. And that pissed her off. And she tries to run to the front lines to fight. And he's like, no, sorry, now you're locked in the house. You're grounded. You're a teenager. You're grounded. Yeah. And everyone talks about how horrible of like a thing that was. And of course it sent her into a panic, right? Well, now compare that to exactly what Feyre and Reesand are doing to Nesta, except worse. She did not want to be trained as a warrior. Reesand wants her as a weapon. He convinces Feyre to say, oh no, we need to stick your sister up in the House of Wind, where her only means of escape is certain death or going down 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
And we're going to force her into being a weapon and isolate her from everyone. And then furthermore, if you think it's okay what they've done to Nesta, but like not what they did, not what Tamlin did to Feyre, then you also have to take into account how Reesand kind of put in her head like Tamlin did all of these things that were bad. He even said that if you marry Tamlin, he's just gonna have you pumping out a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Which is all we've seen Feyre do so far. I will say. Like, I mean, well, she fought a war. Okay.
Yeah.
But
and
there are a lot of people who feel like she really changed.
Yes.
And it's like not her like spirited, fiery self anymore.
Well, I feel like where Tamlin came out with it straight away, Tamlin was very immature, let's be honest. He had a lot of growing to do, and his instant thing was, I just need to protect you, and I'm putting you in my house all the time, and I'm not letting you have a voice, and she wasn't responding well, and that led to her losing weight, and obviously Reesand is very, very intelligent. He picked up on all the things Tamlin wasn't doing, so he starts teaching her to read. He starts helping her gain weight, obviously by exercising, and that he gave her purpose and things, so that did help. But obviously they also had a mate's.
Oh, no. We lost Nicole.
Well, piggybacking off of what she was saying. Oh, sorry. You're back.
You're back. Keep going, Nicole. You're good. Oh, we can't hear you now.
Oh, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You're good.
Would you believe this is how bad I am with my phone? When I put TikTok on my phone initially, it was because my daughter used to use it, and so I had a time limit set to it, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how to stop this time limit. I can ignore it for the day, but then it resets every day, and I'm on my settings trying to go, where do I cancel the time limit? No, I couldn't find it. So sorry, that's what that just was. It was telling me that my time was up, and I ignored it, obviously. So I'm back.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That would totally be something I would do. Not even for a kid, just for myself, and then would forget how to undo it.
Kind of piggybacking off of what you said, though, that Reesand is giving her all of these things that she's wanting that Tamlin's not paying attention to. We have to remember that she has a bargain with him, and he has a direct line into her with that tattoo, and he is likely in her mind. So he's already hearing all of the things that's upsetting her, and he's turning around and using that to turn her against Tamlin. He's saying, oh, well, he's not doing this for you. And how would he know? If I know, how would he not know? But he's in her head. So I feel like it makes sense, right, that we start falling for Rhys, but we forget all of that he has this direct line into her mind. Yeah. And, okay, so before I, continued on this path, so another creator has these really great parallels, and she talks about how everything that Tamlin has told Feyre will happen with her if she goes with another High Lord has come true. So he literally says, I'm trying to protect you because if any of the other High Lords find out the power that you may have, they will capture you to use you for a weapon of war and for breeding. And what did Reesand do? He tricked her into being in love with him, used her as a weapon of war in the next 2 books, and now has bred with her. And then, furthermore...
but it's Reesand! We're happy to breed with Reesand!
And then puts a shield around her so she can't even physically touch people, which I think is far more invasive than Tamlin locking her in a room to keep her from going and killing herself and hurting his court. She physically can't touch people. People can't smell her. She's just going from being with Reesand to her little art gallery, and that's it. She's so isolated. Crazy under control with him, for sure. He's gone into overdrive with the Fae protectiveness to a point that it's not healthy. And I think while we haven't seen Feyre recently, we haven't seen a lot of her. We just generally also saw Reesand just making choices away from her, and she'd always have to be like, oh, I'll go talk to him, I'll calm him down. And it did feel a bit like one of those somewhat toxic marriages you see where the wife is having to regularly go, oh, he's being irrational, don't worry, I'll calm him down, and he'll change his mind, I just need to talk to him. And as I said, very, very hot-headed. What I will definitely say is I think what we've seen proves to me that he would not be a good High King. He would not be the right choice. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but I don't think he's a good ruler. I don't think he'd be good for ruling the whole of Prythian. That's my theory.
I want to call out Emily's comment, which I think is really a good one and interesting, that, in the Massverse, anyone else who has a torturer on payroll is evil. So, I just want to kind of go through that in my mind really quick. So, obviously, Maeve, evil, had a torturer on payroll. Obviously, Micah, right, using Hunt as a torturer. He was evil. obviously Amarantha, using Reesand essentially as the torturer, and others, evil. I'm trying to think like who else there is. I mean, it makes sense.
In saying that, by torturer we mean Azriel, and Azriel is beautiful, and so, you know, he's like
Cameron, Azriel.
I mean, he's got the whole inner circle, which reminds me a lot of Maeve and her cadre.
Yeah. I definitely think that Rhys and Maeve are connected. I definitely think that Rhys is part Vulg. Like Maeve also is said to have like purple eyes, and Rhys has eyes that are so blue they're almost purple. I definitely think there is a connection between the Vulg and Reesand. I also think there is a connection between Azriel and the Vulg. In a different way, potentially. So, you know, I think I'm personally really excited to explore that, because I think we're going to find out that the Vulg, aka the Princes of Hell, which I think by now most of the fandom sort of agrees that they're the same, though maybe not everyone does. You know, I think we're going to learn that there are different factions of them, right? I think we're starting to potentially see that Adis is going to have a different approach to Bryce than the rest of the Princes of Hell. And that he's maybe not totally aligned with him. This like goes into every theory that I
was going to say, we officially open up our next theory that Azriel is connected to the Vulg and potentially the Princes of Hell. Do you want to? You've already started.
I don't want to. I do want to bring it back to Reesand though, really fast, and then we can move on, because I do think that like that connection to the Vulg with Reesand is going to turn out to be important, because I think that's going to be a reason why he can't be the High King, because the High Monarch, maybe it's a queen, I feel like has to be Starborn, and he is not. He's going to have the opposite of that power essentially, and maybe we're going to find out that like maybe he's being a little bit like manipulated by them. I don't know. This is where the Reesand apologist in me comes in and is like, no, maybe if he's being bad, like it's
well, I think we have reason to believe that the Illyrians are possibly some kind of mixed creation that Hell that has potentially done to like get the leathery wings and things like that, or is it more that we're thinking that for the angels? I know that we were trying to break down and figure out which ones created which, but we certainly would potentially seen all these crossbreeding to create the Illyrians, the angels in Crescent City, and who potentially did that.
I could see it being both, because like I mean they admitted to creating Hunt, so why would?
And I think we know that we don't know for sure, but we can be pretty sure that the Illyrians are one of their attempts to make the angels, because what they did say is that they had been trying to make the angels for a really long time, and they had done a lot of different tests and a lot of different species to get to like the perfect set of archangel or angel, which is what Hunt is.
What if all that experimenting was just to create Hunt all on his own? Like all of it was to create like the Illyrians and then the angels, and then finally they perfected it by creating Hunt, and that was all part of their design. Okay, random thought.
Potentially. I mean, I do think, thanks Megan for joining, Marvelous Mrs. Megan. I do think they wanted servants as well. I don't know, like I think the Asteri wanted some kind of like servant, but definitely like it could be like synonymous for sure.
Okay, I want to bring up what Mandy just said, the 13 in the Vulg. Okay, so that kind of, you know how they wanted to breed the witches?
Yes.
What if, and then we had the wyvern, right? Like the Illyrians are kind of human with like wyvern wings. What if that is one of their weird creations? Which I'm not going to go deeper into the Reesand thing, but that also kind of brings me into the whole breeding thing. Is they say that Fae are really hard to get pregnant, right? Well, how come Feyre got pregnant so quick? And I think her and her sister are descendants of the witches. And that's a whole other theory.
Yeah, I like that theory though. That one I'm down for as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
so
Should we just go down that tangent because that one sounds fun? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to have any kind of
go
structure
wherever
with
the
it.
tangent takes you.
Yeah. I'm just like checking the comments really quick. Yeah, Mandy. Of course. I think we all think that the portals went to Prithian, and especially because there is that line in, I think it's, I can't remember Akmath, but it says like, oh, Thanatos has been having trouble with his daughter, and then we meet like a Thanatos in the CC world. Like, she's not going to reuse names. Like, that's, I don't know. I think that's I think it's the same person.
Yeah.
So we were going down the tangent of thinking that Feyre and potentially Nesta might be part of
the witches.
Yeah, I agree. There's a line, I can't remember, Megan, if this was you who told me or somebody else, but like as Nesta is walking down the like 10,000 steps, she like kind of falls a little bit and she slips and her nails scrape the wall, and it says that like sparks flew, almost as if she had like iron nails, which is what claw marks. Yeah, and there's claw marks. Yes, exactly. I am not going to forget about your question, Fatima. Yeah, I think they could definitely be witches.
Yeah.
And wait, Mandy, I don't know what you mean. Her mom has a bed from the 13th?
Yes,
I don't
okay,
know.
so
Megan, do you know about that?
Yes, it talks about how their Mama Archeron's most prized possession was her ironwood bed frame. Ironwood is what all of the witches' frames are made.
Iron. Oh, yes. Yep.
And then there's all this talk about how like Nesta even calls herself a witch. She can't be glamored. And then I don't remember who was bringing up quotes from like they were doing a reread, and when Mama Archeron was talking to Nesta, and she would call her like my little queen. Like,
yes, because she's the eldest, so she would probably, as the eldest, take, if her mom was potentially a witch queen, she would have probably inherited that.
Right, and which is an odd choice of a nickname, because most like parents would call their daughters like my little princess, but she's calling her my little queen.
Yeah.
And literally trained her to be a queen. Like she was training her in that way.
And if we think about how cold Manon was and how she was raised, and it is talked about how cold Mama Archeron was. She was not a nice, sweet mama.
At least to Nesta, for sure to Nesta, which if she is training Nesta to inherit sort of this witch power, you know, it would make sense that she would be very cold to Nesta, but maybe not have that same experience with Feyre or Elaine, who she doesn't think has either inherited the power or, you know, thinks will go on to be the queen or whatever it is.
Yeah. And then the other parallels are there's the three sisters, there's the three witch clans, there's the three-faced goddess. So it's like, I just keep bringing it back to the Reesand because that one's the like most prominent in my mind because I was just talking about it. I think Reesand had chosen the Archeron sisters far before the story started. I think he's been influencing Feyre since before we met her. Because, like, think about the dresser, and she said she would get these visions in her dreams of, like, the Star Knight, or even, I'm pretty sure she mentioned, like, seeing some kind of man, and then later we're like, oh, it's because it's Reesand, and that's her mate. But if we're going down the path that he may be Vulg, like Maeve, we know that Maeve can put dreams into people's minds. We know that she can mass manipulate thousands of people. I mean, she convinced all of Dornell that she was the third sister when that wasn't even a thing. So, yeah, I think this is, and again, this is all just a theory, but
I love the theory,
I think
it holds weight because otherwise, also even just the cauldron, why are Reesand and Feyre mates? Like, and also why is Nesta and Cassian mates? Like, it's apart from nefarious reasons that were possibly discussed previously, but if they've got to be, it can't just be a random human family that suddenly just got, you know, connected to all these very, very strong High Lords and Fae. Surely they must be more important. There must be more to their story than we're aware of. And I don't think that's been shown yet. And possibly that is what we're going to get in the next book. Now, there was a message just a couple back, which I think asked, with the next book, do we think it's going to be primarily around Elaine, or do we think it's going to be a book about Nesta? What are your thoughts on that?
I could see it going two ways. One way, I personally feel like Nesta. I feel like that's the intense Nesta story is done. I feel like it was sort of like she had to have her redemption arc. Is she going to be an important player and character in the rest of the series? Absolutely. I don't know that there's going to be another book centered around her. I think we need to think, and I think it was very intentional that SJM changed the naming conventions for the books. Instead of Thorns and Roses, it's Silver Flames. And I think that was like an indication to us that it's going to change. It's not just going to be centered around one singular like couple or love story.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will be Nesta centric. I do think Nesta will be part of it. So that leaves it for me to be two people. One, Elaine, obviously, that makes the most sense. We have so many questions about Elaine. The other thing that I feel like she could do it now or she could do it later. I personally think we could get a Tower of Dawn style book for Mor. Like because Mor has been tasked with going off to the mainland, trying to like find allies, trying to find information. And I could easily see us getting like that kind of book from Mor's perspective. And it would be a really smart way for her to like avoid dealing with the consequences of
I'm going to agree with that and say that I would hate that because I feel like Mor is boring and I actually don't care. I'm like, Mor can just go and do her thing and we can just get updates from the others. I mean, I feel a little bit similar about Elaine. I don't think Elaine could hold a whole book. I feel like she could be a POV, but I don't think she's interesting enough to hold a whole book. Now, obviously, maybe if we got her POV, that would be different, but I feel like Nesta had such a story and journey to go on that she was such an interesting character, and there's definitely still more growth for her character to go. I could actually see a 50-50 with those two. I feel like we could possibly see Elaine and Nesta being part of a book, but I feel like there is a whole book that should be dedicated to Azriel. Like, please. Like
okay,
please.
I probably agree with you. I'm no Elaine fan here. I think she's really boring and I don't like her. However, I rather than believing that Reesand is evil, I like to think that Elaine is evil. And so if she is maybe not so great, and there's a lot of like inner turmoil going on with her, and she's like deciding whether to be good or bad or accept her powers, I do think she could hold a whole book, especially if she's in this like love. It's not even a triangle. It's more than that because it could be Azriel, it could be Lucian, and then of course there's tons of people who think she might end up with Tamlin. So it could be like all three of them.
Well, she could still be figuring it out because she gets all this information coming at her and it's hard to know whether that's going to be used for good or bad. Someone gave me this theory the other day and it blew my mind a little bit about how, and this is another theory, that Gwyn is actually evil, and it was around Elaine gave Azriel earplugs, and at the time it was said, because you're in the House of Wind and Cassian and Nesta are at it every night, and that's why she gave the earplugs. But someone said, is it to protect from like the siren song? Because Gwyn has potentially, she's half nymph. She could have a siren song. It could actually be quite evil. And was he given earplugs to try and protect him from that song? So that was another little side theory. And I thought, wow, that was a pretty good alternative look at that particular gift.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to what Fatima said earlier. She said, I think Nesta and Cassian's bond is fake, made by Rhys, because he never truly acts like a mate. And I did want to go back to that really quickly because I agree. Because again, we're also told that mate bonds are incredibly rare, right? And then now all of a sudden, all three Archeron sisters turn Fae and instantly get mates. And every single mating pair to these sisters are politically beneficial to Reesand. So it got Lucian to leave Tamlin from the Spring Court, which is giving him an in the Spring Court. But also, if he is Helian's son, it's giving him an in to the day court. Day court.
The day court.
Day court got him to come to the night court because of Elaine. And Cassian acts really weird with Nesta. He doesn't act like, I don't know, if my partner was going through something the way that Nesta was, I don't think I would agree to have this weird intervention and be like, I'm locking you away in a house and that's going to heal you, because it's definitely not going to heal you. And she's really resentful of him, and like, sure, they have their like spicy moments, but honestly, she really has no other interaction with anyone else aside from him.
I think in fairness to the characters, she'd had that period where they tried to just let her sort herself out, and she'd just been going further and further into making really bad life choices to the point that they went, okay, we need a really, really solid intervention that keeps her away from the alcohol, away from the music dens. But did she kind of receive psychological counseling through that time? No, she didn't. She was just told, train, you're on a strict regimen, you can't leave the house. It was very, very tough. Definitely a lot of tough love. I wasn't fully against it because I did feel like it seemed like Nesta was basically slowly killing herself. Like she was really going down a bad path and she did need an intervention, but it was very, very strict for sure.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't personally, I actually really like Nesta and Cassian together. But I do see what people see, that, you know, like he sometimes doesn't really support her.
Yeah, I don't think he's
but what I will challenge myself on is I do feel that the things that I hate about Hunt and how he thinks about Bryce are very similar to Cassian, and how Cassian is kind of
don't mess with Cassian, all right?
I know. It's like, I love Reese, you love Cassian. Neither of us want slander against them, but yeah. So like, I could see that being a thing.
I love Cassian. Right? I love Silver Flame's one of my favorites. I love Cassian, and I love Cassian and Nesta. I've always thought their spicy banter is fabulous. But I was very surprised when, I think during Crescent City, firstly, that Nesta was with Azriel through the cave system. I thought that was really weird. I was like, where's Cassian? Like, why is Cassian not with them? What's he up to? Like, I just thought for starters that was strange. And secondly, I think it's just, there was that bonus scene where Reesand was really digging into Nesta, like being really horrible to her. And this is after the wedding and everything. Like, this was after she saved Nyx and Feyre. I thought they were going to be on really good terms. And yet we see him being really quite cruel to her, that Ember steps in and says, stop, you need to stop what you're doing. You're not being nice right now. And it's like, why is Ember doing that? Why wasn't Cassian? Cassian just looked like he was really uncomfortable and he didn't know which side to take. So he's just kind of being Switzerland. And that's probably the only thing I've been really disappointed in with Cassian, was that he wasn't standing up for his mate. He was just stepping back and being like, I don't know.
And if someone did that, like, to Feyre, he would like lose his shit. They would be like completely mind controlled. They'd be dead, or at the very least like a shell of themselves, because he like wiped their entire brain, you know, like, so, and I does, like, we were talking about this, we're in like a group chat on Instagram, and we kind of were talking about this a little bit today, and I can't remember who said this, but they were like, you know, Feyre is supposed to be the high lady. She is supposed to be Reese's equal. And the first real moment that that's tested, the whole inner circle bows to Reese. He tells everyone to lie to her, and they do it, including Cassian, including Azriel, you know, like, so.
Nesta's the only one that stood up to him. Nesta was the only, I mean, she did it in a heated moment, but she was the only one that went, no, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah. And like, so Cassian, like, still puts Nesta second after Reese, which goes into your theory, Megan, that maybe Reese is like, controlling everyone, or is the bad one.
It annoyed me so much in Silver Flame when Reesand's lie came out. Nesta told Feyre the truth, and then he was so angry at Nesta rather than being angry at himself. It's like, this, you brought this on yourself, buddy. Like, you kept this secret, and it came out, and it should have come out because she deserved to know that. She deserved to have that information. So I didn't think that, like, Feyre came down on him anywhere near hard enough for keeping that truth to himself. I just want to quickly go, and this is a different subject, but Fatma said a message earlier that I thought was really interesting. I've never heard this before, but she said, what do you guys think about Elaine losing a baby to the cauldron? I have never heard that theory, but that is fascinating. I'd love to know more about it, but it certainly would, well, I've never heard of it, I have no idea. The way that Elaine struggled to recover from turning Fae, we thought she had that struggle because she just turned Fae, but obviously it would make a whole lot more sense, the trauma she went through, if she had potentially lost a baby through that process. That is very, very interesting. Just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, I definitely want more down that rabbit hole. So dig into that.
I mean, it's like interesting, but I would hate it so much. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I just had
no
an
pregnancy
epiphany,
tropes.
guys.
yeah. Well, and I think, look, this is supposed to be like, we're having fun, right? We're talking fun things. There are lots of things about Sarah J. Maas that are not always amazing, and you know, for me, if like it turns out that we just find out that Elaine was all of her sadness was just because she lost a baby and not because she has more inner strength going on, you know, like, or more like struggles with good and evil, that would be very disappointing to me. If it turns out that like the explanation for Reese being an a-hole is just like, oh, he just was protective of his mate when she was pregnant, that's gonna be very disappointing to me, you know? So like, I am hoping that there's more to it. And so that's kind of why I don't like the baby theory, is just because I feel like that kind of like lessens the potential for Elaine. Like, I want her to be struggling because she's, even though she's quiet and silent, she's literally in her mind being like, do I kill them all or do I save them all? You know, like I want there to be so much more to her than just being than that, I guess.
I think Elaine is a lot stronger than we have seen, because we also have to take into account what we've seen. We've seen her through Feyre's point of view, which is very selfish, and she doesn't really think highly of either of her sisters. And then we also see, when we're in third person, how protective Nesta is of her, thinking she's this delicate little flower. But I definitely do think there's more to Elaine than we are seeing, because why would she get such a strong gift of like being a seer?
They just said in the comments, I think it was Fatima that said that's why the cauldron loves her so much, because it gave them a baby. I'm like, oh, that is messed up, but also would potentially make sense. That is very, very interesting. All right, let's jump into a ship like question quickly with Elaine. Big question. Everyone can share.
Everyone comment.
Elaine is going to end up with. Who do you think? So we've obviously talked about Elaine. Who do you think is her forever? I want to say mate, but we potentially already know that is Lucien. But who do we think she's going to end up with? What do you guys think?
I honestly would be happy if she would end up with Lucien. I think out of all three of them, that hers might, if the mating bonds are fake, I think hers might actually be legitimate.
Yeah.
Three of them. Because she is distant, but also she was engaged, and that was the life she had set up for herself. She very much wanted to be engaged to that man, wanted to get married to him, and it was ripped away from her, and then she was thrown into a war. She had watched her father die, you know, like just all of this crazy stuff happened. I like Lucien though, so I would be really happy if they worked out.
I would be too. And I agree with Bex. I just want Lucien to be happy. He's one of my favorite side characters, and I feel like he's had a really crappy story and life so far, and I just want him to be happy. I bet Nicole's TikTok timer went off again.
I have this like waiting for mine to go off, but
yeah. I personally am like really into the Elaine Tamlin idea. Like, I think it makes a ton of sense that Lucien could have seen the mating bond with her and Tamlin, and so instead like claimed to be her mate instead to protect Tamlin. I think you know, there's like, if we take the drawers at face value, which we don't know if we can, you know, because of your theory, Megan, you know, they could have all been influenced by Reese or some other Vulg or something. But if we take the drawers at face value, Feyre and Nesta have both followed that path or destiny. And Elaine's is spring. It's flowers.
Yeah.
So she has to be tied to spring in some way. And I don't personally, I think Tamlin will get a redemption arc, which means he will continue to be High Lord of the Spring Court, and Elaine inevitably has to end up with him. I don't personally buy the he's going to go so far off the deep end that the power is going to select Lucien, because we also can't forget that Lucien is the heir to the Day Court. That would throw off the balance that we're kind of trying to achieve.
I feel like 100% that Elaine is going to be like high lady of the Spring Court. I feel like that is 100% for sure for me. I think it's who she's going to end up with. I feel like it is between Lucien and Tamlin. I thought Lucien. I thought they'll end up having no choice but to kill off Tamlin, maybe because she does that, the power will automatically transition to her and Lucien will be by her side. The other alternative would be a true Beauty and the Beast story, which is, if we know much about the history of the Beauty and the Beast story, like the Beast is a bad guy. He has made really bad decisions, and part of his journey with Belle is to get through that and realize some of his errors of his ways and make changes. I feel like Elaine is that perfect example of a true Beauty and then the Beast, which obviously is where he is right now. So I could see the next book being a lot of that story kind of coming together, and I think that'd be a very interesting story, but I think it could go either way, either of those two options.
I want to bring up what Fatima said. She said Elaine says she hears the heart beating through stone, which that set off my spidey senses too, because Tamlin's heart was made of stone when he was under the curse. And she didn't she ask Lucien, like, do you hear it too or something? And he was like, what are you talking about? So that's it's just a weird why would it be included? My thing is, why would it be included? SJM doesn't include anything unless it's important.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that her and Tamlin are going to end up together. I'm pretty convinced of it. Whether they're truly mates, whether she's going to reject with Lucien, I don't really have strong opinions about that, to be honest with you, but I really think they're going to end up together. Thanks, Eve and Bex. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining.
All right. Since we're
Eve
on,
actually had a really good theory. I forgot. I know she's leaving, but it was about the sisters with the drawers that they are. I thought I wrote it down somewhere.
I agree with that, Matt. As long as it's written well, I'm pretty forgiving of which way Sarah decides to take this. I have a really strong theory, though I almost feel like it's not a theory, about where the story is going to go, particularly from a ship perspective with Azriel. But as long as she writes the next ones really well, I'm sure we'll be happy with what we get. Sorry, you go.
And as long as it all makes sense, Crescent City 3 didn't feel good. I don't think there's anyone who really enjoys. That's not true. A lot of people really liked that book. A lot of people did not like that.
The puzzle pieces need to click together, and I don't click together. It just seems silly and annoying.
Yeah. So what was your theory that you were going to bring up about the drawers?
Oh, so no, Eve had a theory, and I thought I wrote it down somewhere, but it regarded the girls, the Archeron sisters, being descendants of the witches and also Starborn. So not necessarily that the drawers represented their mating bonds, but it represented the type of Starborn that they are. So Feyre was, I need to find where.
I agree, Ashlyn. I would love to see Tamlin get his Belle, a true Beauty and the Beast. I think that'd be a really awesome story.
So Feyre would be Starlight, Nesta is Starfire, and Elaine is Shadows. So yeah, she has a whole theory on her page about it, and I really loved that. So if we're going with maybe that the bonds aren't true, or maybe it doesn't reflect their mating bonds at all, and it reflects something totally different.
Even that is very interesting, because you've just said stars and shadows, which a lot of our theories around Dusk Court around that is all around starlight and shadows. Bryce having the starlight powers, Azriel having shadow powers, and those two things combining together to make Dusk Court. It's just interesting that theory also holds a lot to that. And I think that's something that Sarah does so much, is explore the balance, the yin and the yang of light and shadow, light and darkness.
Yeah, I really want to do a full reread of the entire Massverse, which who has the time for that? But I really want to do it specifically looking for references of light and shadow, and just really looking for that in every single book, because I feel like it's going to maybe reveal things, and looking for, because I'm kind of convinced that the epic story she's telling is the story of the Asteri versus the Vulg, and that every character is going to be ancestors or some kind of descendant of those two forces. and because those forces are also shadow and light,
Goodness and evil.
goodness and evil,
Light
but
and dark.
yeah. And so I also want to like read it and be like, okay, do I think this person's descended from Vulg or Asteri? Like, because I just feel like there's going to be so much you could figure out there, but I also don't have time to reread it. So
Yeah. Yes. Now, should we jump into a theory? Or should we ask the audience if you want us to answer any questions or explore a theory before we just like go on a tangent into our own?
we've been tangenting.
Yeah.
Because
Do we all believe in the Reese being evil theory? That's a really good question. I don't think I do. And I'm trying to like ask myself, is it because I just love Reese so much, or is it? I think for me personally, I think she is exploring that he is truly morally gray, and I think there will be consequences for how he acted in Akasif with Feyre that I think we'll finally get to see.
Yeah.
And I do think he's connected to Vulg, and I think there's a lot of morally gray in him, but I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't think that Reese is all bad. I do think that he's deep down good and wants to be good, but I think his emotions get the better of him. I think what's been demonstrated is that he wouldn't be a good High King, and I think that's what that Sarah's going to explore, is that there are potentially other leaders that are better to step up to play that head leader position than Reesand. But I feel like Reesand will be trying, but then he'll eventually realize his own weaknesses and he'll actually pull himself out of the game. I feel like he gets hot-headed, but then he does tend to calm down and go, yeah, you're right, this isn't the right course for me and my family's more important. I think he does genuinely love Feyre. He genuinely loves Nyx, and he genuinely loves the Night Court and the people in it, and he does try and look after his people. There's a lot of good in Reese as well. I definitely don't think he's all bad, but we're definitely seeing a darker side to him right now, which wouldn't make a good High King.
I can just see Megan's like,
Yeah, she's just like, no, like,
right,
you go for it, Megan. You just get it out there.
So you believe it, don't you? You really believe it. Yeah.
Okay, but here's
which
the
is
thing.
great.
Like,
I'm so happy that you.
I also like I love a bad guy. I love the evil guy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shows that I watch where I'm like did you guys watch Vampire Diaries? Klaus?
Yes.
I love Klaus. Okay, so like I would still love Reese. It's just diabolical. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever watched Books and Candy. She's currently going through a reread right now, and she's in Akamath. And she made such an amazing point that Amren is Rysand's like voice. Anything that Rysand, like when it's in his POV, that he thinks there's one specific place where he thinks 3 times, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? In a row. And then over the next 2 pages, Amren says out loud, where is she? 3 times, referring to Feyre. And so Amren is actually the one to suggest that Rysand should be the High King.
Yes.
So what if it's Rysand actually suggesting to everyone he himself should be the High King, and he's trying to put out feelers to see what people
He's like,
will say.
oh no, I couldn't possibly.
The idea.
Oh well, okay.
Yeah, because that's how he reacts. He's like, no, I'm not interested at all. I can't be High King.
Couldn't possibly. Where's that crown? Just give it to me.
Hi,
But,
Courtney. Thanks for joining.
Hi.
but it very well could be.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love it though. Like I'm all for it.
Well, I mean, I love a villain, so it's like, just because they turn bad doesn't mean I'm going to dislike them. I'll probably still be here for it. But then if they mess with Nesta, I'll probably get really angry. And that's why I'm so angry at Reesand right now, because he's been so horrible to Nesta. And I'm like, man, she has had a redemption arc. You need to get over it.
I had like an epiphany earlier about Nesta, and like if we are going down the thought that Rysand is like Vulg and Big Bad, the parallel to Maeve and her reaction to Aelin. She was terrified of Aelin because Aelin had the firepower, right? And that's what could kill the Vulg. Oh my gosh. Hello. I don't know. Sorry. It was like asking if I wanted to end the live. Okay, so she captured Aelin, right? She captured her. She was trying to break her down, to bend to her will. Rysand is actually terrified of Nesta. Like we've even seen it when like her power overtakes him and Cassian gets Rhys to like try to help her, and it's said like Rhys looks terrified. he has trapped her in the House of Wind. He's trying to bend her to his will to turn her into his weapon, and she also controls the Dread Trove, which he wants control of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, there's like these parallels between Maeve and Rhys, and I feel like they're just like
Yeah.
And then imagine if, like, we found out that was part of the reason that Bryce handed the Star Sword and everything over at the end. Like, we're here just going, Bryce isn't acknowledging who she really is and what her destiny is, and she's just trying to just get rid of it and pretend it doesn't exist. But what if some of that was by design, that, like, Reesand was manipulating her to hand it all over? Not that I don't think it would take much for Bryce to be manipulated that way, because she doesn't want to actually have anything to do with it. Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what if instead of Feyre being the main character of the story, it's actually Nesta, and Nesta is the heroine? She's our alien.
I mean, just based on what we know of SJM's kind of like interests, like that she loves Sailor Moon, she loves, she loves lots of powerful, strong women. I actually think we're heading towards a world where there won't just be a singular kind of main female character, that we're going to get multiple amazing female characters. Like, I think Nessa will be part of that. I think we're going to see Bryce part of it. Potentially Feyre, I don't know. It kind of depends on things. But one thing that that just kind of came across my head for the first time actually is, on the Crescent City kind of Asteri side of the story, she's really playing with the idea of like history repeating itself, right? You've got the same bond, potentially, that, Bryce is potentially following in Thea's footsteps. History is repeating itself. What if history is repeating itself with Reesand and the Vulg side of it? Like, Reesand is now kind of following the path of Maeve, but the point is that they're all going to kind of choose differently. Like, I'm so convinced that, I know I keep talking about this, but I'm just so convinced that, like, where the story is going is that it's like this epic galactic multi-universal war,
like
between the
Wars.
Asteri and the
Literally
Vulg.
getting Star Wars.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's the Starborn, the Asteri versus the Vulg, the Princes of Hell, the Shadows. And I don't think that either of those, they aren't going to be, it's not going to be like the Asteri are good, the Princes of Hell are bad. I think it's going to be that they're both bad, and our little cast of characters is going to have to actually fight them both. But it could be really interesting, right? That, like, they're all kind of having to choose to change the way history is repeating itself.
Yeah.
Like, Rhys might have to choose, like, maybe he did do all that bad stuff, and, like, he's going to have to choose to be different. I don't know.
I'm definitely, and I don't know, Megan, if you've seen our other podcasts, but we've spoken a lot about the connections that Sarah has to Sailor Moon and how much her stories, particularly Crescent City, particularly Bryce, is very similar to Sailor Moon as a character. Obviously, the Starlight powers, the Crescent Moon, and how that's potentially we're going to see that kind of stem over into ACOTAR world and whatever the next series is, because Sarah loves, like, really strong female characters, and Sailor Moon, they had like 5 strong females all defeating evil and taking on the world together. Also kind of like K-pop Demon Hunters, where you have the 3 main girls fighting demons, like, which I absolutely loved, by the way. Absolutely best movie, like, of the year. But I think that for sure I can really see Sarah bringing all 3 worlds together and creating a dynamic of possibly 5 characters, which I could see being Bryce, Nesta, Lydia, possibly Elaine, maybe, but potentially 5 characters that will be like defending good, stopping evil, and I think it'll mainly be females.
Yeah.
And Azriel. And Azriel's going to be here kicking butt as well.
He's one of the girls.
Yeah. I hope so. I really hope so. Should we finally get into it? Should we talk? Are we ready for Bryce Azriel? Have we done enough? Are there any other, like,
are you guys ready to hear about it? I apologize in advance.
I feel like we all can't help ourselves. We're like all dancing around it in all of our theories. Like, we just can't help ourselves because we're just so
all our theories interweave into the one. Like,
into the one. Exactly. Let's be really quick though. Let's answer the question that Fatima asked, which is, what's your opinion on Rhys hiding the pregnancy risks, and do you think necessary on purpose? I think it was super fucked up. And I think that that's going to be important that he did that. And I do think necessary on purpose. I don't think it was an accident. What do you guys think?
No, and she should have, because it was super messed up. And especially coming from, like, a perspective of like being a parent, he should have let her ship. This is also what makes me question Reesand. What is so important about this specific baby? Well, yes, it would be sad if she shifted and something happened to the baby, but you can always try again, right? Like, if it was so easy for her to get pregnant immediately when it's so hard for Faye, why would that not be your mindset? How come he's so hell-bent on the baby specifically and not his mate, where everything else that he has been concerned about has been Feyre? Everything has been for Feyre, but now all of a sudden he's like, actually, Feyre, I care about just the baby.
Probably the only exception is he's binded his life with Feyre's. Like, he loves her that much, he decided that. And then hence the rest of them are like, what the hell were you thinking? If she dies, you're going to die too. So potentially they're nearly all going to go at that last moment in Silver Flame. But Nesta has a strong sisterly relationship with Feyre. They might have their ups and downs, but they're ultimately sisters. And your sister's going to tell you if you're in danger. And you know what? If you have a husband who is not telling you information you need to know, it would be your family, your direct family, like your sister, that would actually step up and say, no, I'm telling her. I mean, I think the way that Nesta did it was in a moment of she was angry and things, and she probably didn't do it in the best way. But I think she knew that Feyre needed to know that information.
Mm-hmm. I do have a theory on their life binding together.
Ooh,
I think it's as romantic as it's supposed to be. So The first thing is Nesta hates him. He's afraid of Nesta. Nesta could kill him. She wouldn't kill her sister. So why would he not bind his life to her? But also, Feyre is known to be risky. She does dumb shit all the time. And if she is important to Rhys for even just to be his mate, but for some other reason, that's why he needed her so badly in his life as part of the story. He's not going to let something happen to her. So he's like, oh, actually, I need you to calm down, and I'm going to bind you to my life, and I'm going to play it off that it's this big romantic gesture, but it's actually so you don't do anything dumb.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah. And I think, he easily could have asked Tamlin for help, and they could have solved that problem. That whole, honestly, like that whole storyline for me, it just felt really underdeveloped and kind of weak to me. Like every part of they all agreed to keep it from her. Like if you just take it surface level for what it is, from just a pure book perspective, writing perspective, it was really underdeveloped and kind of poorly done. And so it's I hope that there's a reason for that, and if not, it just kind of feels really weird. Like it was, because and it's easy to kind of just forget about it because there's so much else going on with Nesta, but it just all the explanations throughout it were just really kind of dumb, on a surface level. She can't, don't let her shift because it could hurt the baby. We're not going to ask for Tamlin. We kept it from, everyone agreed to just keep it from, it just didn't if I were...
Dan just came across as a super overprotective Faye husband and a super overprotective dad, and he kind of went next level with it. And tying his life to Feyre's, while very romantic, just seemed like this terrible decision for a High Lord to do when he has a responsibility to his people. And right now they have no heir. He really, as much as he was in love with his mate, he really should have been going, wait, but I still have I need to protect my people. So yet again, proving that he would not be a good High King. He is way too emotional. He does not put the people first. He does not, he just lacks some of the necessary, makeup and skills to actually be a High King. Yeah. I want to jump in, and this is slightly deviating from what we're talking about right now. Ashlyn said earlier, and this is going back to Azriel. Azriel is going to be the Rowan of ACOTAR, and I'm like, yes, I truly believe that Azriel is going to be our number one. I think she has saved the best for last, and I think he will be the main MMC. He will be our favorite. We just haven't been properly introduced to him yet. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I want that.
Obviously.
Yes, please. One of those.
Yeah.
Well, and she has said that he is the kinkiest, the darkest, I'm excited. And, you know, if we think about too, like her evolution of like spice writing, she continues to kind of like raise the bar in terms of how spicy it is, right? Like Throne of Glass, really no spice. The first 3 books of ACOTAR are pretty mild. At the time, I thought they were like, oh my god, because it was like the first thing I read.
Now, based on
like,
what I read,
really
it's like 1 or 2 spices.
Yeah, so at the time I was like, whoa, but actually it's like 1 or 2. Silver Flames really ups it, you know? And then I don't know I really don't. I try not to even think about the spice scenes between Bryce and Hunt because I hate them so much. But you know, like so I'm just, gosh, I've gotten myself on a tangent. What I'm trying to say is, there's more coming, hopefully, from
I think
Azriel,
in
and
ACOTAR
even more
world, we
spicy.
could say there's been a slow but gradual increase in the spice.
Yeah.
Silver Flame being the spiciest, obviously because there was so much chemistry between Cassian and Nesta. But we know, and like Sarah has confirmed, that Azriel is the kinkiest. He is, like, there is a lot there. And I think that also brings me a lot to the questions I have around his mate, because I think he's going to need someone that he can explore that dark side with, that kinky side with. There has to be a character that would be okay with that, on board with that. But yeah, I think they're going to be the spiciest books to come. And she might even be crossing over a bit of dark, you know, dark romance, putting the romanticy.
Darkness in it. Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just go. Let's do it. We have been dancing around it, but really, we really want to do this live for this one reason, which is that all 3 of us are pretty strong, I would say pretty solidly convinced Bryce Ariels. Meaning we believe that Bryce and Azriel are mates, fated mates, and I think they're in game as well. Like I really do think they're in game. I think, you know, sometimes we say that like, oh, they could be mates, but they don't choose each other. I think they will, but that's who we think they're going to end up with. What do you guys think, though? Before, like, do we have Bryce Ariels in the live, or are we like?
Yeah, is this a new theory for anyone?
Yeah. Has anyone not heard this before? Or is anyone not on board? Because I'm really sorry. We're gonna go into it. You're very welcome to be here though and not be on board with it. That's totally okay. I would say I'm about 92% convinced that Bryce and Azriel are mates and endgame. Like I just feel like now that I've seen the jigsaw puzzle all click together, I can't unsee that. I don't know any Bryce Ariel that has reverted back to a different ship, whereas I've seen many Gwyn reels and El reels and that become Bryce Ariels because they suddenly see the links and the clicks and they go, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense. So I'm not saying everyone's going to agree with that. And I think I allow that 8% because there's always the chance that Sarah has planned this trajectory. And then, of course, it's still in her brain. She may change her mind. There's always a chance she's going to say, I was planning to go on this pathway and actually I've changed my mind now. I'm going to do something different. So,
although I have to say, I just feel like the first third of CC3, I just think it sealed it. I just don't see why you would do that pairing, why they would go into the prison holding hands. Like, there's just so many things that I just am like, alone. That was her committing.
Like,
what was your first way? How did you like kind of fall into the ship? What was the thing that convinced you? Did you hear about it first and then read it, or did you read it?
No,
how was it, Megan?
Was like, so I'm also a crazy person. Okay. Background of me, my father's a homicide detective, so I am a little
good at detective skills, right? Yeah,
yeah, I'm a little sleuth. So immediately when she landed in front of him, I thought of the Thea story when she said, "Bring me to a Prince of Hell," and then she was telling, you know, she was like, "I actually landed in front of my fated mate," and I was like, "Oh, that's what just happened." Like,
yeah,
we landed in front of that.
Literally. We can imagine Azriel might have been looking at the sky going, where is my mate? Why won't you bring me my mate? It's been 500 years. And then boom, Bryce lands basically at his feet. And
because like that story was fresh in my mind. I was like, why would they have just told us this story about that? And then the exact same thing happens to Bryce. And then just every action. Like, we hardly see Azriel speak to anyone. We hardly see him interact with anyone. And with Bryce, it was just like immediate. And like, especially the hand holding, it was second nature for him to just grab her hand. Like, he didn't even question it. Where when Elaine tried to touch his hands, he withdrew, and everyone like ships them together And he was like, no, I can't, you can't touch.
He's like, oh, I'm going to ruin her beautiful perfection, like with my scarred hands. He was thinking about it. Whereas with Bryce, it was like he didn't even think, he just did. He just
it's like he
needed to hold her hand.
And not only that, but like she holds his hand back. And like literally Hunt can like sniffs in her direction in the rest of CC3 and she's like, get away from me, alcohol. Like she can't stand him. And I just like what?
She literally forgets about Hunt all the time. When she was
about him all the time.
She was like, you gotta get back to that guy. And she's like, what guy? Like literally, like
yeah, she has to tell herself, oh, Hunt. Oh, I mean Hunt. Yes.
Yeah. I know. And they like for me, the thing that is like so, although Megan, some of your theories kind of call this into question, obviously. But like, let's take the mating bonds at face value, right? Let's take Cassian and Estes at face value. Let's take Feyre and Rhys. Assume that they're real. Every other, like the only people who walk into the prison holding hands are mates.
Mm-hmm.
Azriel and Bryce walk into the prison holding hands. Like, I just don't see how that's not super symbolic and super like telling.
So just to confirm to everyone, Cassian and Nesta held hands going into the prison. Reesand and Feyre hold hands going into the prison. Whenever we've had mates go in there, they've always held hands. So it's just coincidence interesting that Azriel very intentionally holds Bryce's hand very tightly as they enter the prison.
Yeah. That for me, I just feel like that is so symbolic and it's like obviously all of the rest of it is really important, but if I were to pick like one thing, it's that for me personally.
I love Courtney said he could have held Nessa's hands. He didn't. He grabbed the redhead.
From another planet. Like he could have, he knows Nesta quite well. You would think that if he was going to protect anyone, he would protect that. And even the way that his wings often kind of shelter Bryce, particularly in the moment where Nesta's wearing the mask and she's fighting the worm and he's really scared of Nesta, and he actually, and like the wings are delicate, like they don't want them getting cut or messed with, and his body is shielding Bryce. Like fair enough, maybe he's trying to get her out of the way or whatever, but he's actually shielding her with his body. I think that was very telling. For me, I was just the whole time, I thought everyone was going to get it. I thought I was reading it and I was jumping on here to see everyone be like, oh my God, Bryce and Azriel are mates. And there was only like a couple of people and everyone else was like, oh yeah, Bryce and Hunter forever and, ever after. And I was just like, why am I the only one here? But okay, the hand holding. Then when Azriel hits her with his power and she says it's 100% pure liquor, even more than Hunt, I'm just like, that just, you never, ever.
And not only that, but then right after that scene, his power behaves differently in a way it has never behaved before. Yes. He's 500 years old. He's tested the limits of his power. Bryce is like, just make a little bridge for us. And he's like, it doesn't work that way, dummy. And then he tries it and it freaking works. Like, that is... like both of their power is changing. That is significant.
Yeah.
And they're
her suddenly has the shadows
with each other. Like Azriel is suspicious of literally everyone, and like you said, Bryce is. I relate a lot to Bryce, and I'm just like a man hater. I'm like, ew, men. Aside from my husband, but but she's even like that with her supposed partner. Like. And she just lets him take the lead and lets him lead her through these strange, like she doubles back to save them after she immediately put them in danger. Like, that is not normal behavior for her.
No. And the other thing for me that is a huge tell is also like the Hunt stuff, right? Like, Hunt is named after Orion, who always dies. SJM, like everyone always cites like, oh, they're SJM confirmed they're mates. I'm like, no, what she said is they'll be together if they both survive. And we know that like she has heavily foreshadowed that Hunt is gonna die. The Oracle says stay away from Bryce Quinlan. That hasn't been resolved. Like there is so many things about Hunt in particular that just like take Bryce and Azriel out of it. Take their chemistry, take everything that happened in the first part of CC3 out. Hunt is not long for this world, which means like Bryce is gonna have more story. Like she is the heir to the Dusk Court. theoretically. I mean, there's other people, but she's the heir to the Dusk Court. She's also the heir to the Autumn Court in Midgard. She has Thea and Celine's Starlight now. Like, her story is not over. Hunt's is ending. Hunt's story is going to end, and Bryce's story is not. And I just feel like that has to tell you that, like, there's something else out there for her.
And if you compare the last page of ACOTAR 1, the very first book, and the last page of Crescent City 3, they are nearly identical. With Tamlin and Feyre living happily ever after, with Bryce and Hunt living happily ever after, they are nearly identical, which instantly for me tells me that that's where we're at in this story. Like, we have kind of got through this, but we are far from, and I think this is part of why Bryce hasn't had her growth journey, why a lot of people don't like Bryce right now, because she hasn't had someone that's allowed her to grow and become who she really is. Hunt just wants her to stay the way she is. He's a real Kale kind of character. He loves her, but he also just wants her to be just Bryce. Just Bryce, working at the museum, you know, just doing everyday things. He doesn't want her to grow and actually find her destiny, which is why most of her growth was happening in Prithian in the cave system. She had more growth in that like couple of days in the cave than she did through the whole rest of the book. Which is why I think, I'm I don't know about you guys, but I'm a massive Hunt hater. I never liked Hunt. I was never a huge fan. I was always hoping it was going to be someone else. Before I fell into Bryce Ariel, I was hoping it was going to be Adis. I was looking for anyone. I was like, surely this is not our end game. It just didn't have the right vibes, especially when you compare him to Rowan and Reesand or Cassian. You know, I just thought there's got to be more here.
He was just boring, honestly. Like, I don't hate him. I'm just not impressed by him. Like, he's just there. And if we're going to talk about SJM patterns, the first love interest is never in game.
Yeah.
He is the first love interest of Bryce's that we have been introduced to, that we've actually seen. Like, obviously we know she's not shied away from dating around, but we didn't know that Bryce. We only know this Bryce.
Yeah. So. Well, and I just like, she doubles down on the Orion connections, right? In Greek mythology, Orion has two fathers. He's created by two different beings. She also, like, she doubles down on that in CC3. Like, she could have easily been like, oh, you know what? I'm going to have them stay together. I'm going to maybe just kind of like back away from this Orion thing. And maybe like she could have resolved it. But she doesn't. She doesn't do that. She doubles down. She tells us very explicitly he is Orion and everything that like entails. So I don't think he's going to make it.
And Orion generally makes some bad decisions. And I think that there was a real moment in Crescent City 3 where I think a couple of times we've seen Hunt get into a moment where he gets so angry, so aggressive that he almost loses himself. And one moment was, it was about 3/4 way through. I can't remember who was fighting, but was really, really angry at this particular person, and he was going to fight them with his lightning. And at the very last moment, Bryce goes to grab him, and he at the last moment pulls his lightning back, and he says, "Oh, I would never hurt Bryce." But it felt like it was on the edge. It felt like it was on the cusp for him, like he almost lost control. And I kind of wonder whether Bryce is going to end up in a similar situation to Ember, where she got attacked by the Autumn King, whether we're going to see Bryce physically attacked by Hunt.
Well, and that is one of the stories of Orion, is that he attacks Athena, and so Athena has to kill him. There's other stories where he does other things that are bad that aren't necessarily attacking Athena, but Athena still has to kill him, who is the person he's in love with. So like he always dies, and it's almost always by the hand of Athena, who is like in love. So I don't know. I'm just looking at some of the comments. What do you mean, Courtney? Who knows this before they even go into the caves? I don't know. You guys are having a conversation. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Like, Ashley said that Connor is like Sam.
Oh. Wait, who's Connor?
Because they brought up like Connor being
Sam. Oh my god.
Oh god, Connor the guy that Bryce was.
Or honestly, Danica is the.
I think we've even agreed that Hunt and Bryce, they kind of trauma bonded. Like they were going through trauma together, and they kind of bonded that way. It's just I'd say just those two characters. they have an all right relationship, but I don't think it's mates forever after kind of all-consuming romance that we expect from Sarah. And I think some of the biggest signs for me that pointed to Azriel and Bryce being mates was firstly when she actually travels through space and time and lands basically at Azriel's feet. She's actually yanked across, and yanked is a word that Sarah uses for mates. So when someone has a tether as a mate, they're either tugged, yanked, pulled. They always talk about that tether that binds their souls together. And I think it was very interesting that Sarah used that particular word to describe that rather than falling into hell, Bryce was yanked across and lands in Prythian. I think the other thing that makes me excited about Bryce and Azriel is where this story will potentially go, because I think that it will create the most epic future story. It's not just a small story, it's actually huge. It's a huge story. It's basically just the beginning of what could possibly be a 5-book series.
Yeah. That's for me too. Like, I just think it's more fun. I just think it's way more fun to think that Bryce and Azriel will be together, that it's this like multi-universal bond, than to think that he's just going to end up with Elaine. Like, all 3 sisters get all 3 bad boys and it's all tied up in a perfect little bow. Like, that just doesn't feel interesting.
I feel like if Azriel is going to end up with Gwyn or Elaine, it's going to be one final book and we're done. We're just going to have this nice little rom-com, like romance book. Yep, they're together, happy ever after, done. Whereas Bryce, it's going to open up. Well, first of all, it's going to be all this turmoil with the fact that if we get into the next book and like Azriel, let's say Azriel already knows, and he turns around and he says, "That's my mate," but she says she's already got a mate back in her other planet, and what do I do? Like, even that has just created all this conflict and turmoil. Here's poor Azriel. He's been waiting 500 years to find a mate, finally finds it, and she's saying she's already got a mate at home. And so now he's even more lonely and upset than he was previously, and would possibly lead him to then go, okay, well, maybe I have to look at alternatives. Maybe I have to look at what my other options are. I feel like with Elaine, Look, obviously there's a chemistry there between Elaine and Azriel, but I don't think she's the right personality for him, nor do I think he's the right personality for her. Even as someone said, like, Azriel is pure shadow and darkness. Imagine him in the Spring Court, like, because that's where she's made. Like, when Elaine was wearing black, they said it washed her out. She wasn't made for it. She was made to be in spring. And so imagine those two together. Like, he could never be in spring. He'd be a shadow in the corner, being all moody, trying to live in this, spring paradise, and vice versa. She doesn't belong in the Night Court or anything, or hell, or wherever we think that Azriel is from. I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts quickly?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to respond a little bit to C Money's comment that, like, Elaine is light. I can totally understand where you're coming from with that. Like, I do see, because she is like spring. The distinction for me is I think Elaine is life, and I think that's different from light. And I think Elaine is going to be the person who brings life back to Prythian. She's going to rejuvenate the Spring Court. It's just like, if you're looking at all of the characters across the Massverse, right? Because, like, Sarah has confirmed, like, we're having this Massverse, like, she's doubled down on that with the books. And you have to ask yourself, which of all those characters is the true character that represents light? It's not really Elaine. Like, it is Bryce. Like, she has a star in her chest. She is way more, like, connected to light than Elaine would be.
Yeah.
She is the embodiment of light. She has a star in her chest. So, I just feel like there's, like, if it is this yin and yang, which I think we all kind of agree, like, there's going to be this need for a yin and yang. I just think that, like, light and shadows are more of a yin and yang than life and shadows, because I don't think Azriel is death. I don't think he's the embodiment of death. And I think a lot of people, and I could be totally wrong. Like, I can really see the, like, Hades and Persephone of it all, and people really thinking that, like, they're, like, the Elaine Azriel story is going to be Hades Persephone. But I don't really see Azriel being the embodiment of death. Like, he doesn't, things like,
even though Azriel by name is actually Angel of Death. Angel of Death. But I think he's connected to hell. I think we're going to find out that his mum or something was actually like a princess of hell or something like that, and that he is actually destined to be somewhat of a ruler there. That's my kind of big epic thing for him. So he's ultimately going to be kind of a prince of darkness. He's basically the reincarnation of Adis, and she is the reincarnation of Thea, the queen of light. So it's going to be the two of those characters coming together.
And actually, Simani, I like what you said, that Nesta is death. 100% she is. And so if Elaine is life and Nesta is death, what is Feyre? What does that leave for Feyre? Which I think is like really interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. Is this being recorded? I think all lives you can like read.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And someone asked earlier, what about Gwyn and Azriel? Now, I could probably go on some massive tangents here, so I will apologize in advance, but let's jump into Gwyn because I think it's really important. And now, firstly, I totally get there may be many Gwyn reels in here, and that is awesome. You are allowed to love who you love. I was a Gwyn reel before turning to this because I guess there was a couple of things that kind of pointed, when she was cutting the ribbon and they're like, oh, now Azriel, you're the ribbon. But I do also think and believe that Gwyn is more of a side character. I also think that she is a priestess. While there is music, when she asked Azriel to sing, he just went, no, not doing that. Whereas with Bryce going through the caves, he's humming her favorite song. In that bonus chapter, he's humming it as he's walking down into the night or whatever in the cave. So we just get, for him, his singing is automatic with him, whereas no one has heard him sing in Prithian. Like he's known as a shadow singer, but no one's ever heard it.
It's almost like we're intentionally getting these like opposite moments, right? Elaine wants to hold his hand. He won't let her, but then he holds Bryce's hand. Gwyn wants him to sing. He won't, but then he hums with Bryce, right? Like all of those things I feel like are intentional to really highlight for us that like Azriel can be his true self when he's around Bryce, and he cannot be his true self with Elaine or Gwyn. And I do agree that I think Azriel has chemistry with everyone, and I think that's part of why the ship wars are so intense is because I think everyone loves Azriel. I think everyone just like thinks that he's the best character. Everyone's so excited about him, and so I think that's why there's so many ship wars. I also think the bonus chapters, like I think she did it on purpose. I really do think she tried to cause some of the ship wars. Maybe not. She didn't want it to become as toxic as it could be, but
yeah. I also just kind of go at the moment, Gwyn is a priestess and she sort of loves being a priestess. She's very sheltered, and yes, she's coming out of her shell. She is doing more. She's getting braver. But is she going to go on a truly kinky journey with Azriel? I know a lot of people are like, that could absolutely happen. Maybe, possibly, but it doesn't probably really gel with her personality. Honestly, at this point, I don't even know if she's the kind of character that would even fall in love and get married. I don't know, I get her love for her friends and that, but I don't really, I don't know, at the moment I can't really see her being romantic and certainly kinky with Azriel the way that he would need.
About that. Wasn't the whole reason she is a priestess and was brought there is because she was assaulted by a man, and even Nesta was like, if you don't want to come to this training because there are going to be men around, I totally understand. So like you said, I don't see her having this like super kinky.
No, if she was going to have a romance, you would kind of imagine it maybe more with like a Lucian kind of character, someone that's loving and healing, and not that Azriel has been very kind and patient with her, but I think this is the thing, right? Azriel needs someone he can be his true self with, and the truth is with Azriel, he has a really dark side, and at the moment with Elaine and with Gwyn, he has to bring a version of himself. He has to be this kind, caring, gentle kind of like, Illyrian warrior to say, you're safe here, you're safe to train with me, to be with me, but he's not being his true self. Whereas when he's around Bryce, he hates her. He meets her and he's like, I don't like you very much, but I'm obsessed with you.
But also we're gonna hold your hand.
And so he's he doesn't care about touching her with his scarred hands. He's just grabbing her, and so you could just tell for him, it's just like things were just automatic there. There was this, they're on an equal playing field, and I think that just made a huge difference.
I really want to I keep saying like there's all these different ways I want to reread the Massverse, but I also want to do another like reread of ACOTAR specifically with the information that I now have about Thea and Adis and the Dust Court, because I feel like there's going to be a lot more that we could maybe uncover if we like are looking at it from that perspective, because I'm really like I want to look for even more connection between Azriel and Adis, because I think they have a lot in common.
I agree. I think that, well, I don't want to read ACOTAR. I don't want to read them again until we have like a solid date for ACOTAR 5 and 6, because I kind of want to know that I'm going to get that answer soon, because I'll get to the end of it and I'll be dying to get the answer. So I've been holding out for that, going, no, I'm going to wait till we get that. But I agree. I haven't done a full reread since obtaining all this information, and going back with, and you know, and seeing it from a different perspective is going to be really interesting. But what I can say is what the information we have seen, I can't unsee it now. Like, you know, and I'm sure it's like that for a lot of you. Once you sort of see these links and these connections, it's really hard to not see it. I definitely just feel like Azriel and Bryce are just the chemistry those two characters have together. One of my favorite scenes is obviously the bonus scene. There's like literally a meet cute moment where she wakes up, he's staring at her sleep, like watching her sleep, like what is with that, bangs her head, and then like Nesta finds out that he was watching her sleep, and even she was like, you were watching her sleep? Like, that is just weird.
It's like such a meet cute. And also like, okay, imagine if any other character did that to Bryce. She would like blow up on them. She would be like, you're staring at, like, oh my, and she just kind of like goes with it. She's like, oh.
Yeah, she would have something so snarky to say, and she was just like, oh, you are? Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. And I think what was really important in this scene was also the exploration of music, because Sarah loves music, and she's always said music is a huge part of my life and a huge part of my characters. And if any character ever doesn't like music, aka Hunt, we may see like that character
they'll
probably
be a villain. Yeah. She was really explicit. She's like, if they don't like music, they're probably evil. She like said that exactly.
Yeah. I also think it's so interesting that like Azriel loves Bryce's music, even like the real techno dance music. And what's our very first scenes with Bryce? Like the very first scenes are her in like the White Raven dancing to the club music. I just now in my mind, I just need to see like Bryce and Azriel at the White Raven together. Like I need that in my life. I need to see Azriel all tattooed up and in leather at a club. Like,
I know. I'm so into it. I do want to ask, so we're kind of speaking about Azriel. I'm sure we're going to come back to talk about Bryce Azriel because it's our favorite topic. But what do you guys think of the Azriel heiress theory? Because I'm going to be honest,
this was new.
That's my second favorite. Like if Azriel doesn't end up with Bryce, I kind of want him to end up with Eris instead of Gwyn or Elaine, because I just don't like either of them for Azriel.
Look, it's fun. I am absolutely pro everyone. You're allowed to love whatever you love. Like, totally, of course. I feel like if Azriel and Eris were ever going to end up together, it probably would have happened in the last couple of 100 years. I feel like when we think about, I think we have to go, Azriel would have to be getting with a new character, not someone he's already been affiliating with for the last couple of 100 years, because surely things would have eventuated. So I think you've got reasons.
If Azriel is, if it's a mate bond with Eris. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's reasonable to say that the new relationships that have opened up are Elaine, Gwyn, and Bryce. I don't think we've got anyone else that's new to. I think everyone else he's known for a very, very long time. So that's probably the only reason I would say that I don't think. Not to say that I think Azriel's kinky enough that he would possibly go there, and I'm not going to say he's not going to be open to a threesome with like Eris being involved in some way, shape, or form. But I don't think that they're mates. But I think it's really fun to just have that theory out there, though.
It's like all this stuff with more, though. It seems really unlikely.
It seems really, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I really like. Of course, we're going on tangents. I really want to know because Eris says something to. I think it's to Feyre. Maybe it's to Nessa, where he's like, Moore knows why I did what I did, and she just needs to like come to terms with it, like sort of saying that there's more to his side of the story. And I do think that Eris is not going to be. I think we're going to find out that like he had a reason for doing what he did. And
I agree.
And like I think that maybe like he helped more fake it or something. Like,
yeah. I think that he's taken on looking like the villain. Everyone's going, oh, Eris is so bad. But I think that there's more to it. I think it's very interesting that Moore has never come out and said the truth. And it seems like she's keeping secrets as much as Eris is. And Eris has always said she'll tell you when she's ready. So I think that there's a very morally grey kind of trajectory there, that we kind of know that like that's where that story is going to go, that we're going to find out so much more.
I actually do think Moore is going to be a villain. I really do. I think that she's truth, like, and yet we never see that her demonstrate that capability. Like, can you think of a single time where Moore actually demonstrates that, like, the Morrigan powers? I really can't. So I don't know if it's going to be like some kind of faked role or something like that, but I think she's going to turn into a villain. I really do.
Well, maybe she can steal the truth from people, or have them like to where they can't speak the truth.
Ooh.
So I was going to say
that.
Hasn't Sjm also said along the same lines of, like, if a character doesn't like music, they're likely evil. Doesn't she also say if a character likes red or consistently wears red, they're evil? And Moore is like,
I heard that, but possibly. She's very into, like, the power of like, you know, crystals and colors and music and things like that. So it's quite possible.
I wish we have like some people in our group chat who are, like, so on top of the SJM interviews, and, like, they always know, like, exactly what she's said. And I don't think either of them are on here, but I wish, because I don't know if she's, I don't know. That would be really interesting if she had said that.
Actually, this leads me to another question that I think, because I think Sarah has confirmed that there's going to be a betrayal in the next book. Someone is going to betray. Who do you think that betrayal is going to be from? I mean, I guess there's been a lot of theories that it might be Moore, Amryn. I feel like Amryn's maybe too obvious. What do you guys think before I jump into my own theory?
Well, it's the potential people are, it's either Amryn, Elaine, or Moore. I feel like that it's one of those three. And I personally think it's going to be Moore. I think she's been kind of out of the loop, you know, like there's a reason she kind of got sent away to a different kingdom and we haven't really been seeing her much. I think it's going to be Moore. As much as I want Elaine to be a villain, I think that Moore will be.
Moore just disappears when, like, shit's hitting the fan, though. Like, she's like, there's even points where she comes back and they're like, where have you been? And she just like, doesn't even address it. It's like, literally, where have you been? Like,
it could be, okay, I think we literally started this live talking about, like, the timeline of, like, we know that Sarah confirmed in the end of 2023 that she was already writing this next ACOTAR book. And for her to say that she's just now finished the first draft, now 2 years later, we're all kind of like, what? You know, that's a long time for her. And it could 100% be that, like, she's had kids and, like, her life is changing and, you know, it could, there's lots of
she's writing 2 books. She's writing 2 books. It's not going to get
so it could be she's writing 2 books, or maybe she's, like, turning Reese into the villain. I don't know. Maybe Megan, maybe you're convincing me that Reese is the villain. Like, and it just took her 2 years to, like, get it right because she knows how much we all love him. I don't know.
No, that would be complex. That would be very, very complex. I definitely agree with the whole Moore situation. I think there could be a connection to Crochet there, and potentially more working with Crochet. Obviously, Crochet, we kind of know he's possibly this future villain, but we still know very little about
him.
What's going on.
Very little about the death gods, which... One of my outstanding questions is really, how do the death gods fit into the Asteri, Vulg, Princes of Hell kind of, like, ecosystem? Are the death gods something new? Are they a third kind of godlike power that we're going to have to contend with? Or are they on one of those sides or something? Like, I'm really excited to learn more about them because I just kind of want to know where they fit in.
Yeah, and I can quite honestly say that I have no idea. I can theorize that I feel like they're either going to be I feel like they're going to be their own entity, but they're going to be very important, and it'll be interesting whether there's good and evil in that entity or if they're generally bad and the connections there. Going back to the question before about who is going to be the betrayer, I've heard the theory, which I thought was so out there, that the betrayer may actually be Azriel. That Azriel may decide to turn against Reesand, that he may actually, I mean, theoretically portray the Night Court and say, and I think we can all agree, Azriel is not happy right now. He is not happy in the Night Court. Everyone else has found their love. Everyone else is happy ever after. And he is quietly miserable. He hasn't found his person. He doesn't really have his purpose. He doesn't really feel like he belongs. He's, you know, of the bat boys, he's the last one standing. And I do feel like he may decide to turn against Rhys, particularly if there's this animosity, potentially if, say, Bryce is his mate, there's this animosity there between him and Rhys, and he actually decides to go his own way, which could be him traveling to Crescent City World to chase Bryce or something like that. But yeah, what do you guys think?
We can't forget that it was Azriel and Nesta in the caves with Bryce. It could be any slew of characters. It could have been any slew of characters. It was Nesta. I think we saw that there is a real friendship between Nesta and Azriel by the time that CC3 starts. There's not weird tension between them. They seem pretty locked in step from Bryce's perspective. I could see Azriel not liking the way that Rhys treats Nesta. And that being another reason why he betrays or turns on them or something. And maybe like it's gonna be written from the ACOTAR perspective as a betrayal, but it's actually not a betrayal. It's him sort of like going off to find Bryce or something like that. And I could see SGM really liking playing around with that.
Yeah, well, I could see Reesand possibly going, we've decided we're going to go on this quest. And Azriel actually finally now having some growth of his own, possibly realizing through going through that cave system with Bryce and Nesta, realizing his own power, what he wants, and actually finally saying, no, I need to go on this other journey. And then possibly Reesand putting his foot down and saying, no, like, if you do that, then you're leaving our group. Like, you know, I could see Reesand giving him an ultimatum and Azriel actually going, fine, I'm stepping away then. You know, I could definitely see a world where something like that could happen.
Yeah.
Someone did mention, like, Azriel is a spy master. I feel like this just goes back to my favorite theory. What if Azriel has uncovered something that Reesand did not want him to know? And so, of course, in the Inner Circle's eyes, that would be a betrayal to them. But like you said, if he's going to go off with Bryce and actually fight this big battle, it could be he's doing this for the greater good, and he sees the cracks that are happening and the bad that's happening, and he's got to put the foot down.
I could also see Rhys being like, no, we got to protect our own. We protect our people. We protect Prythian. We protect the Night Court. We protect each other. And Azriel really seeing that the rest of the universe is falling apart. And Azriel kind of saying like, no, we have to go out and we have to help Midgard. And Rhys really not wanting to do that. And Azriel kind of saying, okay, well, we have to part because
I think we could see that. Because I think already Reesand has said a few times, we care about Prythian. We only care about Prythian and the Night Court. We don't get involved. Like, that was part of the reason he was so concerned about Bryce being there, was because he was like, we don't want their danger coming here. He was like, so go away, like, go back to where you came from, because we don't want to be part of it. Whereas I think Azriel and Nesta are both much more open-minded to this idea that there is a bigger war going on. That's why Bryce goes to Nesta and asks her to help and give her the mask, because she knows Nesta is actually willing to consider helping. And I think that, so we definitely see a potential where we could, I think we're coming up to a break of the Night Court gang. I think we're going to see a division. I think we can see it's building up, and I think in the next book we're going to see it break apart. And I think we're going to see Nesta and Azriel going their own way. And then I think you said something earlier, which also leads me to another theory. This is a very out there Bryce Ariel theory, right? So like, bear with me, hear me out. This may be true, maybe not true, but some of the theories are that Azriel, part of his powers is that he can time travel and he can travel potentially through space and time. We don't know a lot about his powers. Some people have theorized in the Bryce Ariel community that Azriel has already been in Crescent City World, that he has already had a few moments where he has been there. Main contenders are being one of the Viper Queen's soldiers, there was a moment where Bryce was about to get attacked by one of the Hell's monsters. It was I don't know what it was called, but like it was about to kill her, and two of the Viper Queen's soldiers come in and fight it, and Bryce particularly talks about this particular one and his like scale like armor. When we actually look at it, it is very similar to our kind of Illyrian warrior sort of armor that we potentially see. There's also another moment where Bryce notices this like rock star god, and there's a few times that we already think possibly Azriel, probably future Azriel, not current Azriel, has possibly been jumping into Crescent City World, whether it's to protect Bryce, to help, whether he's got his own little thing like journey that he's on there. But I don't know, out there, what do you guys think?
I love that. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because also like there's that point where he talks was it Cassian or no Reese? I don't know. I'm getting them all mixed up. But when when their mate dies and he was like, or they ask what if she's dead? And he was like, you would know if your mate is dead.
No, here. You'd feel it.
Yeah.
Like he knows.
Like, well, how would he know that? And Bryce has also
died twice.
So
Bryce died twice.
Yeah, and if he doesn't have a mate in Prythian, how would he ever know what it would feel like?
Yeah, I know. I am obsessed with. I think there's like I can't remember. There's like a moment in the club, like in the very first like wedding scene, that people think is like Azriel, but like I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like time travel really, it just like expands the universe in a lot of ways that are hard to control, right? But I love the idea of Azriel has to go back in time to help Bryce, and knowing that she like has to end up with Hunt and like has to sit there and watch her go through that relationship with Hunt, knowing that like he's her mate, they're together in the future, and it's like a future him kind of going back.
Can't interact. He can't really interact. He can only interact to like prevent her from dying. Like that's the only time that he steps in. He seems to know the moments that he needs to come in as a potential Viper Queen soldier to protect Bryce, but obviously hiding his identity because he knows that future Bryce needs to meet him in the future.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we've got a lot of people who are on now. So if you're new, if you just joined, we are talking all things SJM theories, but we've essentially been talking about Bryce Ariel.
We have spoken about other things beforehand. We've only just jumped into it now because we couldn't make people wait any longer. So apologies in advance if this is not your favorite theory, but it definitely explains a bit about where we think the story is going to go, which I think was someone's question earlier, which I'd be happy to jump into as well, which is where do we think the story is going to go if Bryce and Azriel are mates? Are you guys happy if I quickly like give a spiel and jump into it?
Do it.
Look, so I think one of the questions we've had also is obviously Crescent City 3, we already have like, we've had Bryce and Azriel and Nesta like all hanging out in the caves, and we don't know what's been happening with the other gang, and we don't know, are we going to come in after those events or before those events or during those events? I think we may come in kind of during those events or maybe just before, and then I think we'll potentially see the POV of the other characters and how it ended up possibly that Azriel and Nesta ended up in the caves and then after that. But I think the real story that we're excited for is the theory that the next series is going to be Twilight of the Gods. Anyone that doesn't know, Sarah J. Maas loved Pinterest. For years and years, she had 4 Pinterests, and she shared all this beautiful art and things. She had 4. She had Throne of Glass, she had ACOTAR, she had Crescent City, and she had Twilight of the Gods. So as we know at the moment with Crescent City, we are about to run out of First Light. We are going to hit ground zero. And the theory is that there's going to be a Ragnarok event. So we are going to have Ragnarok occur, and it's going to be the end of the world. We may see Bryce have to escape with other people and potentially go to Prythian. So I think there's that potential that that's going to happen. And then we're going to see these worlds obviously combining, merging. Maybe we're going to see Azriel needing to go there to go back in time to try and stop this event from occurring, to save her planet, that sort of thing. But there's obviously a lot of story here. And then obviously all the animosity and complexity between, if Bryce and Azriel are mates, this is not just a straightforward romance. She's got Hunt. Azriel may still choose Elaine in the meantime or something else. It's going to be really complicated. So it's not just, I doubt we're going to get, if they are mates, I doubt we're going to have their romance and resolution in the next books. I feel like it could be a couple of books before we get to them finally being mates, being able to be together. It'll be a long, slow, tedious journey.
Yeah, I think it will take a really long time. And I think there's a potential where we see Azriel get with somebody else, honestly. Like, I could see her flipping the trope of not ending up with the first love and applying that to a guy in Azriel. And so she puts him with someone, and then it doesn't work out. And then him and Bryce are having to figure that out, and it's really complex and complicated. I also do think, I mean, the way that we end Crescent City 3, right, is that the Princes of Hell are theoretically the good guys. And, they've helped defeat the Asteri, and they're just so noble. And they just were trying to come and help Bryce fight the Asteri. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that the Princes of Hell are good. I don't believe that they have good intentions. Maybe Adis is different, and maybe some of the other ones will end up on Adis's side, but I don't think that that they were just like these altruistic, like, oh yeah, we've just always been trying to help the people of Midgard fight back the Asteri. Like, no. So I do think that another part of the where the story is going to go is this epic battle with the Prince of Hell, aka the Vulg, and the Asteri. And I don't, like, the Asteri aren't dead. We've killed the ones that are in Midgard, but they said their people are like spread all across the universe. I wanted to say this earlier, and then we pivoted. I am personally feeling like the Death Gods could be the Asteri. I don't like the idea that there's a third kind of godlike power. I like the idea that there's two, and that they are reflective of light and darkness, good and evil, even though they may not fully embody either of those. But I do think part of where the story will go is light and shadows battling each other, and Bryce and Azriel are at the heart of that. They have to help with their various connections to those two worlds, dimensions.
I 100% agree, especially what you said earlier, that the Princes of Hell are evil. I truly believe that they are actually the main epic villains of these future books. I think the moment that Bryce has like the Hell's Army coming through Crescent City and she's going, wow, these guys are terrifying. Like, if they were on our side, I would genuinely be concerned. Yeah. And I think I found myself going, I think you should be concerned. I think it's kind of, now they've gotten rid of the Asteri, what does this potentially open up? I think that I think you've discussed, Alley, about the potential that the Princes of Hell are actually Vulg and the connections to that. Maybe you want to go into that theory a little bit more about how you kind of click together the pieces that suggest the Princes of Hell could be the Vulg, and then also what that could mean about their ability to have the magic to create fake mates, the way that Maeve created a fake mate for Rowan. Yeah. Could the Princes of Hell have created a fake mate for Bryce?
I mean, what we know about the Vulg is that there's hierarchy within them. We know that from Throne of Glass. We learned that, there were a bunch of brothers, right? And Maeve married into one of them, and she didn't like being part of that family. And the same is true of the Princes of Hell. We know that there are hierarchies within them. We know that there are a bunch of brothers. And we know that they live in a dark, kind of shadowy place. Bryce expects, when she goes to Hell, to be going to a place with no light. Maeve describes her homeworld as a place with no light. So, we could get into I could go super deep into the idea that the Vulg and the Princes of Hell are the same. But I think most of the fandom kind of agrees with that. And yeah, like you said, it really is interesting that Maeve faked a mating bond and is part of the Prince of Hell, and potentially the Adis and Apollyon also potentially faked a mating bond. That magic could have been either Maeve could have learned that magic from the Princes of Hell and then done it to Rowan, depending on the timeline and where you think Throne of Glass fits into the timeline, if it's the past, present, or future. Or the Prince of Hell could have seen what Maeve did, learned from it, and then used it to also fake the mating bond between Hunt and Bryce. I think that's the big thing that so many people say every time we talk about Bryce Azriel is, oh, but they're mates. Oh, but they're mates. And it's like, okay, but we have literally seen in this universe fake mating bonds. So we have to ask ourselves, is there a potential that the mating bond is fake?
Yeah.
We know that the Princes of Hell created Hunt. They admit to
Bryce. Don't they even admit they created him for Bryce?
Yes, they do. They admit that they created him for Bryce because they wanted her to help defeat the Asteri. That was their purpose.
He made for Bryce, but he was made for Bryce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they say like, oh, the mating bond, that just happened. That was just the universe. And it's like, I don't know about that. Like,
yeah, I think they answer it very, very quickly. That she's like, was that intentional? And they were like, oh no, that was. Yeah. We didn't know that was going to happen. That just happened accidentally. What do you mean? I think definitely they knew a lot, especially there's that really powerful line in Crescent City 3 where they say don't fall into romanticism. When Apollyon and Adis realize that Bryce has landed in Prithian and they look at each other and they're like, don't fall into romanticism. Would she seriously?
What happens is Adis, who is, right, like the mate of Thea, and Thea is Bryce's counterpart, Adis says, kind of like starts a sentence. Apollyon doesn't let him finish it and is like, oh, don't fall into romanticism. Almost like Apollyon is saying to Adis, no, it's not history repeating itself. It's not, it's not the same. Don't you worry, Adis. Like, I think Adis is good and Apollyon is bad. And I think that is going to be a really important storyline point in the future.
Yeah. I think like a lot of the different entities that are in Crescent City, ACOTAR, all of Sarah J. Maas's world, there's going to be moral grayness even in our potential villains. So if we say that the Princes of Hell are the ultimate villains, I think we're still going to see that there is potentially good and bad in that. As I say, one of our theories is that Azriel's mum may actually be a princess of Hell. So therefore Azriel may be half from Hell. But he says that his mum was good. He said that she was good and kind and sweet. So I actually think that we're going to see the layers there as well, that just because you're Vulg does not necessarily mean that you are inherently
You think
evil.
his mom is his connection to the Prince of Hell? I think it's his dad. I think his mom is Illyrian. I think his dad is a Prince of Hell because he grew up in a dark castle, and it doesn't, and it's his.
I actually don't know, and in fairness, I have not read the first couple of books in a really long time, so I need to confirm. But for some reason, I like the idea of it being the good one, like not the bad. I almost like the idea more of his dad being the Illyrian warrior and being quite mean and awful, and his mum actually being the good one. I mean, but there's even other ideas. There's like changelings. Sarah has often talked about changelings, and yet she's never had a changeling in any of her books. So some people have theorized and wondered whether Azriel is actually a changeling child. But that's another out there theory that's totally sidetracked, so I won't go into that any further. But yeah, I definitely, I think it's complex, and I think it'll be very interesting to see where Sarah takes it.
Yeah, for sure. Should we start to wrap this up? Megan,
I know it's.
Yeah, I know it's getting late, especially for Megan, who's on the East Coast. It's midnight for her.
How are you going, Megan? Have we kept you going?
It's 11 o'clock here. I'm.
Right. You're not East Coast. You're Central Time. Yeah. Okay. Still, it's getting kind of late.
Yeah.
Well, do people have questions for us? We should definitely open up the floor for the last little bit to really. We've like thrown a lot of various ideas and theories at you guys. Do you guys have any questions, or do you have any of your own theories that you want us to cover before we jump off? Because we would love to share it. I know we've got a little to share about the Pinterest board was filled with Sailor Moon and Bryce. I think that it'll be a major crossover. Definitely, guys, if you want some Sarah J. Maas homework, go and watch some Sailor Moon, especially the original. There's so many links to it. Sarah actually wrote a lot of Sailor Moon, fan fiction as her very first books. So she absolutely loved it. I think she loves girl power. We often think that that Azriel is Tuxedo Mask, who is the main romance character in Sailor Moon, mainly because his superpower is throwing roses, which is a really random superpower, but it's very interesting that Azriel's house in Prithian is Rose Hall. The necklace that he goes to give Elaine is a rose. Is that correct, Ellie? I'm pretty sure that's correct.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Sure.
Courtney or Cass, keep us honest. I can't remember. It's hard to remember sometimes. Any other... the chat's pretty quiet. Any questions? Somebody asked if Reesand is Cthulhu. I don't know. I don't know a lot about that side of like that particular fandom or like lore. So I can't answer that question. Yeah.
I think what we will see, someone's just asked a little bit about Twilight of the Gods and Ragnarok and potentially First Light being, you know, that ground zero being the Ragnarok event that leads to, we don't even know yet what that's going to lead to. Is that just going to be a blackout of no light, or is it going to be something even worse? But I think things are not over in Crescent City. I think there's a lot of problems there. And we've obviously just had the Pegasus explode out of the mountains as well. And we don't even know if that has also happened on Prithian, because it's sort of that connection. A Pegasus now flying out of Dust Court, out of the prison. And you know, are they going to try and contact Bryce to say, hey, we've got Pegasus coming out of our mountain. Can you please help us? But I think there's a really exciting story there. I think that there is, and I kind of, when I think of the story of Elaine, obviously love the idea of Beauty and the Beast for her. For Gwyn, I actually could see a world where she could actually be a villain, which is a bit crazy. But I think, actually, I want to really quickly go into that, because some people may be like, what are you talking about? But some of the reasons we consider that Gwyn could be a villain is because she obviously is half nymph. So there's obviously that possibility of the siren song. Now, there are the moments like when Nesta is listening to her sing, and that is the moment that she kind of gets transported into the prison, and I think is at the moment that she sees the harp. We kind of see some moments. There's when Gwyn is doing the rite with Nesta and Emery, and Nesta thinks that she will do really badly. She's really worried for her well-being. We actually find out that Gwyn has actually done quite well. For someone who was too terrified to leave, you know, the library for many years, she actually performed really, really well, surprisingly well. I would just encourage you to kind of look at some of those main chapters with Gwyn and imagine it more from a villain perspective. Just imagine the whole story we have that maybe didn't actually happen, or we don't know everything about it, and actually kind of see it from the villain perspective. The bonus scene with Azriel, and when, you know, he gives her the necklace, some people have said his shadows respond quite differently, particularly if we compare how they are with Bryce, where they're very curious, whereas when they're with Gwyn, they're almost sort of swaying to her song. They're almost mesmerized. So, you know, we have to wonder what's going on there. Could there be a little bit more? Mm-hmm. Have you guys got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I sorry, go ahead, Megan.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We haven't let you talk in a while, Megan. I've been on a wild tangent.
I feel like I'm still new to that side of the theory. Yeah, I haven't really honestly thought much of Gwyn.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have something exciting come from her, because
the reason, to be honest, the reason I don't know that she is a villain, like I see the evidence, but I also just don't think she's that important. To your point, Megan, I just don't know if she's that important personally to the story. I mean, obviously the bonus chapter has kind of like given her more importance. I think if the bonus chapter didn't happen, people wouldn't really even like be talking about her.
Side character, cute little side character that's a little bit naive.
Yeah, I just kind of struggle with that. Everyone's been talking a lot in the comments about the timeline of Throne of Glass, and so I thought we could quickly address that. Because it is a really important question. And I think it's helpful to go back to like, what do we know? So we know that there are Fae from both Prithian and from Throne of Glass worlds in Midgard, right? We see the sort of starborn connection to the Dust Court, and then we see the shifters, right? The what Lydia is and her people. Yes. We see that there is that connection to the gods and goddesses through Lydia. So somehow those people have gone over to Midgard. Could that have happened so far in the past that they've forgotten it and Throne of Glass is still happening in the present? Sure. But I personally like to think that Throne of Glass is in the past because of just how their worlds are connected. On the other hand, ACOTAR is obviously in the present. And so they have somehow gotten those Starborn Fae into Midgard. And like a similar thing could have happened in Throne of Glass. When Aelin falls through the worlds in Kingdom of Ash, she sees a lot of really important things that I think a lot of people sometimes miss. She sees Feyre and Rhys at Starfall. She sees a tall man, a pregnant woman. She sees stars falling. She is potentially one of those stars falling. And so was that happening in the present time? Was she seeing the future? Was she seeing the past? We don't know. She also sees a world covered in water, which is really interesting because what we know about the Midgard world is that the oceans actually ruled it from the very beginning. And so she could have been seeing Midgard's past. She could have also been seeing Midgard's future, because that could be what happens with Ragnarok, right? And all of the waters kind of rise up, and so she could be seeing Midgard's future in a world post. What?
That'd be crazy. That would be nuts.
Yeah,
I love
right.
that. I love that. That's like, and it would really fit in with Ragnarok.
Yeah. They also do mention, there is, as Courtney said, a mention of a great war, which could be in like the past. That could be the war that somehow led them to the Midgard world. Like that's what we don't really know yet is how the Asteri got Throne of Glass Fae into Midgard. And that is like a really crucial question to understanding the timeline, is how did those Fae, like, was it something similar to what happened at the Best Court where they like trapped a bunch of Fae and then sent them over there? Was it something different? How did that happen? I think we have to figure that out to answer the timeline question for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's in the past, which means I don't think we're going to see Aelin. But I don't know. We will.
Yeah, I feel like that moment where she traveled through space and time, I like to think that was our measure of the timeline in the three worlds. I mean, who knows? At the end of the day, that's ultimately going to be up to Sarah. I love the idea now that Manon may somehow come in and be part of this epic 5 girl power team that we're going to create, possibly a Valkyrie. I would love to see Manon come in and join that. And I think if there's that connection to the witches, as you discussed earlier, Megan, with the 3 sisters, the Archeron sisters, I would love to see Manon come on and be part of that. And I feel like in the Throne of Glass world, Manon didn't overly get a lot of closure there. You know, she obviously lost her 13. She actually hasn't really been left in a great place. So I would love to think that there's more story there for Manon. I would love her to come and join.
We also don't know for sure that the horn doesn't have time travel power. Like, we know that the harp has that power, but like Bryce could have easily been going into the past or the future and somehow just naturally going back to her present day time when she goes back to Midgard. So like there's a world where actually Prithian and Throne of Glass are the past. I don't know. It's hard to say.
All right. Last couple of random theories. Hang on, there's one theory I didn't talk about that I think is very controversial, but I think is a super interesting theory. And this is a theory that Hunt actually killed Danica. So hear me out. This is the theory that Micah, like basically Hunt was actually Micah's hitman. And they say that the last thing you say to, what's Hunt called when he's in his helmet and he's the
Umbra Mortis.
The Umbra Mortis. The last thing you say to them is please. And the last thing Danica says that we hear is please. She says please. And then, you know, well, theoretically they say that she killed herself. But a lot of people actually believe that because Hunt was actually Micah's hitman, that possibly he did it. And he's been keeping this a secret from Bryce all this time. And if that happens to be true, whoa, that's going to be a massive deal breaker for Bryce.
I mean, because
heard that before,
Hunt himself says the last thing people say to me is please. He himself says that. And then those are Danica's last words. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, that connection makes a lot of sense to me.
That would be the trigger for the whole Orion
right.
timeline.
Right, because we know from Orion that his mate, his lover, Athena, is going to kill him. That's pretty much how it always goes. That, in my mind, would be a reason for Bryce to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, I could see her finding that out and just...
It being a deal breaker.
It's
being
done.
an absolute deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you got any other big, random, out there theories that you want to talk about?
I don't think I do. I think we kind of covered everything, honestly. We've gone through a lot of theories.
We've gone through a lot of theories. We've done well. I hope people have enjoyed coming on this random crusade. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for what the next books are going to be. I think there's so much story here. I feel like the fact that the next book is so long that it's possibly been turned into 2 books really points to, like, we are just at the start of this next part of the journey. I really think that Sarah's just getting started. I don't know how Sarah has the patience. If I was writing, there's no way I could hold this story in and write 3 whole Crescent City books. And even think about the way that, like, really there's been 3 books on Azriel and 3 books on Bryce. I was just thinking about this the other day because Azriel wasn't in the first ACOTAR. He came in Akamath. So really, he's had 3 books. She's had 3 books.
Oh, that's
and
a
now
good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Will
be interesting to see.
Together. All right.
I think we should wrap it up. Let's all pitch our various platforms and whatnot. Nicole and I obviously have a podcast. If you can't tell, we have done a lot of talking about this. We have 4 or 5 episodes on Bryce Ariel. I can't remember. I lose track of time. We've done so many. More coming even. And we're both on Instagram, TikTok. You guys,
find me at Book Loverholic.
I'm Alley Cats and Books on Instagram, and then I didn't make my TikTok early enough to get my same handle, so it's alleycats.and.books on TikTok. I'm also an author, so I'm a published author. I actually wrote a romantasy book called The Witch Queen that is out. So my pen name is Alexandria Arden. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok, and I definitely wrote a book that's very inspired by SJM and really likes book theories. So it's kind of like Manon and Dorian fanfic in a way. It's very much like witches and they call each other Witchling and Princeling. And so check that out if you're interested.
No, she's actually really talented, guys.
Yeah, if you're an SJM fan, seriously, like 5-star read.
And like I now can't write a book because now Ali has set the bar extremely high, and I'm like, how am I meant to match that? Like I can't do that. I go on tangents. I start here and I end up over there, and that's why for now I'm sticking to podcasts.
Yeah.
But no, this was super fun, guys. We love talking about Sarah J. Maas. I mean, I'm just so thankful. The worlds that she brings to us are amazing, and the theories that we get to come up with. I think when I started, I was such a shallow vibe reader, and then to actually see these deeper layers and levels on these books, it's just amazing. I'm so thankful. I'm so excited we're getting, more coming soon. I can't wait till we get more updates. But hopefully we're not waiting too long. I don't know. When are you guys predicting we're going to get the next book? Do you think we might get it early next year, or do you think maybe it's mid? When do you think we're maybe going to get another update on the actual book and title?
I hope it's out by early next year, and I hope by the end of this year we will have a release date. And
yeah, I think it's coming. So Bloomsbury's financial year ends in March. I think that's really important to keep in mind. Their fiscal year ends in March. There's a reason why SJM is always published in their 4th quarter, which is she's always got January, February release dates. So I think if we're going to get something next year, it will be in their 4th quarter. That's just how sales and revenue works. So I think January, February is, if it's next year. I'm still unsure on whether we'll get it that quickly. There's a world where SJM is lying that this is the first draft. I mean, it could be more like the first of the finished drafts type of thing, you know, like
I'm like, surely you don't put that out there until you know it's pretty wrapped up. Like, surely you know, right? I'm not too far away. I like to predict that. Look, I'm still gonna like live in my little Delulu land that we're gonna get 2 books. We're gonna get a 5 and a 6. I'm gonna predict that we get the 5 around that February, March, and then a bit similar to Rebecca Yarros, who had like Iron Flame 6 months later. I feel like then 6 months later we might get ACOTAR 6, which would just fill my soul so much with so much happiness. I would love that. So I'm gonna hope for that.
Yeah, for sure. But I think like it's good that like it's only a good thing that she's posted again, that it's finished, right? Like it's only a good thing that we're getting.
We got an update, guys. We got an update.
Yeah. She was in her Taylor Swift
in the world. Makes me happy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much, Megan, for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, and make a whole
love that.
another list. So.
Yeah. Everyone follow Megan too. She didn't really plug herself, but definitely follow her. She talks about
you can just find me here. I don't have like a bookstagram or anything. I'm a hairstylist in my day job, so this is just like what I do for them.
That's why your hair looks so shiny and stunning in this.
Thanks. Yeah, so this is like my outlet, and honestly, like Fourth Wing and SJM is like what got me back into reading again, and obviously lit a fire. So
for sure.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you so much.